Nationals, we have talent. It's Miller time.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome into this hour-long edition of Miller Time. Along with Matt Crawford, I'm Matt Miller. We are live in the studio following Washington Nationals baseball today and another strong effort from the Nationals offense.
You didn't put enough sarcasm in there because it was a pitiful display by the Washington Nationals offense, getting shut out again. What was it, 1 for 7 with runners in scoring position?
8 runners left on base in a 2-0 loss.
5 hits total.
5. Once again, they get good enough pitching. Gio Gonzalez, 6 innings, gave up just 2 runs on 6 hits. He struck out 4. He walked 1. But once again, the Nationals cannot get the offense going. They are so inconsistent, I guess is the best way to say it. When they get decent pitching, they don't get hitting. When they get good hitting, they haven't necessarily gotten great pitching.
Yeah, but even when they've gotten good pitching days, they've sometimes only won 3-2.
Right.
At what point does the conversation switch to, okay, maybe the Nationals offense isn't as good as we think it is? Maybe they were good last year and the year before. Maybe it's been a couple years of guys playing above where they think, or above where we think they should be. At what point does this stop becoming a slump and start becoming, okay, maybe this is what the Nationals are going to do this year? Maybe it's time to stop looking at this team and saying, okay, once they get out of their slump, they'll be okay. Everything will be all right. They just need to get out of it. After 2 months of this, at some point, you have to look at this team and go, okay, maybe they just aren't quite the Nationals team that we were expecting this year. But I'm not willing to jump ship yet. No, but because I still believe they have talent on their roster. But I think at some point you got to look at this team and go, okay, maybe this isn't just some weird funk they're all in. And I get there's injuries, but at some point it's got to be looked at as a Nationals team that just isn't as good as everybody thought they were going to be.
Well, certainly they're not playing as well as everybody would have expected them to play. But when you look up and down the roster, you still say this is a team that should be contending. Bryce Harper's having one of the worst years that he's had in a Nationals uniform, which means as a professional. And so, what's going on with his bat? You're getting the occasional home run. You're getting the occasional run batted in, but you're not getting the consistency from him. Adam Eaton's been dealing with injuries and trying to really, I guess, get into a rhythm. Same thing for Daniel Murphy. Of course, they haven't had Ryan Zimmerman in the lineup for quite some time. He's coming off of a almost career year last year that kind of came out of nowhere as he was able to stay healthy.
Well, that's going to be interesting. With a guy that's Zimmerman's age, not that he's that old, but in baseball years, he's getting up there. How a guy who's been in the league this long, at the age he is, to still be producing what we think is an extremely high level, it'll be interesting to see if this injury impacts him long term. Because a lot of times it's just one injury or one specific event with guys that have been in the league this long and are that old in baseball terms that maybe transition their game into what is the final downhill slump of their career. Again, I hope that doesn't happen to Zimmerman because I think he's a good baseball player, but it'll just be interesting because he hasn't had this kind of layoff at this late. I mean, he had the career year when he came back from an injury because everybody wasn't expecting it, but you never know what you're going to get a year and a half later, almost 2 years later now, when you have a guy that's his age coming back from injury.
We will see how it plays out, but so far it has not gone well for the Nationals offensively, and as a result, they're sitting in an even 500. Who would have imagined with that lineup going into the season that the Nationals would be at 46-46, but that's where they are through 92 games. So let's take you back to earlier this afternoon as heard right here. We go to the third inning and really the lone mistake on the mound for Gio Gonzalez.
2-1. Swinging a drive to deep center field. Harper racing back to the warning track, looking up, and it's gone. The Nationals pitch to Marte, and he burns a 2-run homer into the hedges below the batter's eye. His 11th of the year. He is tearing the cover off the ball in his 7-game hitting streak. It's now 2-0 Pittsburgh.
2-0 in the third inning, bottom of the third, and the Nationals could not mount the rally as they leave 8 runners on base. And again, another semi-lackluster final call, as heard right here, as the Nationals really go down without much of a fight in that top of the ninth.
On 1-2 the pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out with the off speed and strikes out the side of the ninth inning. So Felipe Vasquez's second save in 3 days, his 20th in 24 tries for the year. The Pirates take the series 2-1 and knock the Nationals back to 500 after 92 games at 46-46.
A very disappointing start to this road trip. We said on Monday, coming out of winning 3 out of 4 against Miami, you've got 7 on the road going into the All-Star break against a Pirates team that's been struggling, against a Mets team that's been struggling. You got to come out of this going 5-2 at the worst. That means they better go sweep the Mets because they just dropped 2 out of 3 in Pittsburgh.
And this how many sweeps do the Nationals have this year? Any?
Where they've swept an opponent?
Maybe 1 or 2.
But if they did, it was early.
Yeah. So this isn't a team that's going to come out and sweep their opponents. So again, it's just so hard to look at this team and just not see potential. So it's hard to look at this team where they're at right now. I know I just made the question about when do you look at this team and think, okay, they're just not as good as we think, but that's just so hard to do and not see them coming out and having a good series against the Mets. Again, because the Mets are struggling hard.
What's harder? To be an Orioles fan coming into a season knowing that you weren't going to be probably a contender to begin with, but to be struggling through a disappointing season that could ultimately be one of the historically worst seasons a team has had in the big leagues? Or is it more difficult right now being a Nationals fan who had high expectations, but at 46-46 are let down? In other words, if the Orioles were 46-46, there'd be a lot of people, I think, at Camden Yards and a lot of Orioles fans who would be going, wow, we're playing some pretty good baseball right now. The Nationals have that same record, and we're lamenting this team's not playing very well.
I think it's harder to be a Nationals fan because you look at the way they have underachieved when they got to the playoffs since, 2013, 2014?
2012, maybe even?
Yeah. So you look at the way they've underachieved in the playoffs, and then to fire Dusty Baker, who had one of the better records of any manager in the regular season in his tenure in D.C., and to bring in Davey Martinez and still have the same core group of guys that you had throughout the Dusty Baker regime, and to be where you are now, I think it's harder to be a Nationals fan. Because you talk to O's fans, I don't think they would have expected it to be this bad this year.
Right.
But I don't think Orioles fans had any admiration of having a good season this year. So I would say right now it's probably a little more difficult being a Nationals fan. But again, I'm not in the shoes of an Orioles fan.
Right.
Just looking at their team possibly being the 7th worst team of all time.
I'm just trying to put it in the perspective of if I'm expecting my team to maybe be hopefully a 500 team, if that's my expectation and we've already lost 60 games, ouch, that hurts. But I didn't expect more than about a 500 team anyway. If I'm rooting for a team that I'm clearly expecting to not only be in the playoffs, but potentially be a team to make noise in the playoffs, and if the playoffs started today, they're not in.
Mm-mm.
That is disappointment. I mean, that one hurts, maybe even worse than what's going on right now in Baltimore. Although then you look at the future of it and say, well, the Nats still have the pieces to.
Yeah, they have stuff to build on. The Orioles, You're looking in their farm systems and what they've drafted and scratching your head, wondering where in the world they're going from here.
No. What leaves you scratching your head is Baltimore rallied late last night and beat the New York Yankees by a 6-5 score. They've taken 2 out of 3 from the Yankees as they took one of a doubleheader that got played earlier in the week. And so that means that the Orioles now have 5 wins, 4 losses in 9 games against the Yankees this year. One of the teams fighting for the best record in all of baseball, the New York Yankees, 59-31, trailing only the 60-plus win Boston Red Sox, who, by the way, doubled up my Rangers last night 8-4. Sorry, Yankee fans, my Rangers didn't help you out. But Baltimore's 26-66, and yet they came away with a walk-off win last night and have a better than 500 record against the Yankees.
It's crazy.
They just need to play the Yankees more.
Every game they'd be right at the 500 mark.
Not necessarily every game, but at least more often. Not like they don't play enough.
I was going to say, isn't this the same guy that says that there are too many games in baseball and they need to play everybody less? Now you're saying, hey, they should play the Yankees more.
A walk-off RBI single, by the way, for Jonathan Scope yesterday, and that came after a 2-run tater from who else? Manny Machado.
You just called it a tater?
Well, this one was a tater tot.
Yeah, we didn't get into this. It is a home run.
It is. I looked it up online and saw.
Was I right?
You were right.
Thank you. Whoa.
I know, it's hard to say.
Did he?
That one came coughing out. No, you were. We saw the highlight of the Machado home run that tied things up last night against the Yankees 5-5, shortly after New York had taken, a 5-3 lead. And Aaron Judge, 6-7 of him, leaped as high as he could, crashing into the fencing that in right center field encases the seating area where it's the grounds crew, right, that all sits out there. The ball nicked off the top of the glove of Judge. He almost caught it.
And his wingspan's got to be, 18 feet?
Yeah, he's a big guy. Well, after nicking off his glove, it hits, there's a little bit of wall that still raises up on the back side of that area where the grounds crew sits. And then there's a handrail on top of that. And then that's where the fans are located. It hit right on the top of that and caromed back into the field of play. And initially, the Yankees played it as a ball still in play. Of course, the Orioles did the same. They had runners at first and third. They were still looking, going, wait a minute, I thought that was a home run. And ultimately, they reviewed it and got the call right. But initially, as I'm looking at it, that's not a home run. It didn't get into the crowd, but they rule it.
And immediately I said it did. And I explained why, and you just refused to believe me until you looked it up.
And the ruling is?
That the fencing on the front of that, I don't even know what the front of the dugout for the grounds crew is basically what it is. Because you can't make a play beyond that, it basically creates an invisible fence that goes directly up from the front of the fencing on the grounds crew dugout. And that becomes the wall.
So if the ball hits on top of that and then bounces whether into the stands or back out onto the field, it's a home run.
Yep.
That tied it up. Jonathan Scope won it. The Orioles and Yankees will go at it again today, and we'll see if Baltimore can keep those winning ways going against the Bronx Bombers. Meanwhile, our Washington Nationals, after falling to Pittsburgh earlier, will take the short flight from Pittsburgh to New York. It's the Mets on the schedule beginning tomorrow, a 4-game series heading into the weekend and then into the All-Star break. When we come back, we'll talk some minor league baseball. Sean Mernon from the Hagerstown Suns joins us after this on Miller Time.
Clean out of sight, don't you know that she's so kind of wonderful.
Hello, this is Delegate Mike Folk, candidate for West Virginia Senate District 16. I want to extend my personal congratulations to all the Little League All-Stars this summer. As a former 3-sport athlete and Shepherd football player, I understand the importance of discipline, hard work, and perseverance, something our All-Stars have in common. As you continue your journey through this summer and your life, remember this quote from Hall of Famer Jerry Rice, who said, "Today I will do what others won't, so tomorrow I can accomplish what others can't." Best of luck and have a great tournament.
Do you hear that? Nothing beats the sound of summer unless it's finding a way to make cleaning your pool easier. Now you can with Pool Life. Our complete line of premium pool care products is the easiest solution under the sun for crystal clear, clean pool fun. Get the most brilliant clean ever seen all summer long with Pool Life. Only at fine pool dealers like John's Pool Supplies, close to Gold's Gym on Eagle School Road in Martinsburg. Ask about quality PDC hot tubs. Phone 267-2000 or go online at johnspoolsupplies.com.
I'm James Kell with NFL Network Now on the Westwood One Radio Network. Serious allegations levied against LaShawn McCoy Tuesday. The Bills running back was accused on Instagram of domestic violence, child abuse, animal cruelty, and illegal drug use by an unidentified woman claiming to be a friend of McCoy's ex-girlfriend. In response, McCoy denied the accusation, saying via Instagram, quote, "The totally baseless and offensive claims made against me are completely false. Furthermore, I have not had any direct contact with any of the people involved in months." Court documents show that McCoy had been trying to evict his former girlfriend from his Georgia home. A home where, according to NFL Network's Mike Garafolo, area police said a woman had been assaulted early Tuesday morning by a lone figure, adding that the home was specifically targeted and not random. McCoy, though, was in the Miami area Tuesday, working out ahead of the Bills' training camp. This has been NFL Network Now on the Westwood One Radio Network.
Grainger stands for safety, and they know what safety stands for. S, safety. A, all about safety. F, feeling good about safety. E, extreme safety. T, talking about safety. Y, you guessed it, safety. First aid kits, eye wash stations, fire protection, you name it. For over 90 years, they've been helping to keep facilities safe and people safer. When it comes to safety, Grainger's got your BACK. Call or click Grainger.com to see for yourself. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Napa know-how.
It's officially the best week of the year. Why? Because this week only, you get 20% off at Napa. And the only thing better than quality car parts is 20% off quality car parts. Okay, so we're a little biased. But don't wait, because the 20% off sale will be over before you know it. Quality parts, helpful people. That's Napa know-how.
Napa know-how.
As Hasanovich goes to second with a 2 RBI double, and Martinsburg is on the board first.
This is West Virginia State delegate and former Little League All-Star Jason Barrett. I can still remember those summer days, the fun of playing baseball, building friendships, and learning lessons that are still with me today as I serve the people of the 61st District. I'm proud to support this year's All-Stars and wish the best to each team.
61st District Delegate Jason Barrett. Trusted leadership, real solutions.
Smith Nadenbush is an independent insurance agency. You see, there's an important difference between Smith Nadenbush and agents who work just for one company. Working for one company, they can only sell the products of that company. On the other hand, Smith Nadenbush can design a program just for you, your family, or your business, and at the right cost. Smith Nadenbush. Martinsburg, Charlestown, and Berkeley Springs.
Let me hear you. Get it live. On two. On three. Hey, me out to the ball game.
We welcome you back into Miller Time. We're going to take you not to the ball game, but a guy who will be at the game tonight. Sean Mernon, play-by-play voice of the Hagerstown Suns, bringing us up to date on the Washington Nationals minor league affiliate from the South Atlantic League. Matt and I got a chance to talk with Sean earlier today and ask him specifically about the team being on a little bit of an upswing coming back home after a road trip.
It was a decent road trip for them. They lost that last game against West Virginia, and even then, they still had 14 hits as opposed to the Power having, I think it was 5 in that last game the other night. But right now, they're playing decent baseball here during the course of this month. They got some pretty good quality starts from some guys, and that's been happening more and more recently. I mean, things are definitely looking up headed into this. It's a short homestand today with Columbia in for 3 games, so it's just interesting to see how, even though you're seeing guys are moving up and coming from Auburn or wherever they're coming from, this team is kind of persevering here, at least in the early part of the month.
Just a couple of games back, I remember looking at a box score and seeing where the team had left like 14 on base in another close loss, kind of mimicking a little bit what the parent club has been doing in D.C. Has that been an issue throughout this season, getting those key hits with runners in scoring position?
Yeah, at times it's been an issue for the team. It's strange because even then when you look up and down, I was just looking at some of those situational statistics. You have some guys on the team that are hitting 600 in that situation, and then other guys who are hitting like a $147. So it's a problem, I think, at every level of baseball. But this season, it's been hit and miss with some guys. There's guys where, they come up to the plate and the bases are loaded or there's 2 outs and they have a guy in scoring position. And you're like, this guy's going to get a hit because more often than not he does. And then there's some guys where you come up and, if they do come up and they get a hit, it's a nice bonus to have. So, and those guys right in the middle of the order, they've been pretty good with that. And now you're starting to see someone like Yasel Antuna, who he struggled a little bit. He's another high prospect here with the Nationals organization. His bat's starting to come around. He's homered in each of his last 2 games. So if you can get that back coming around and producing some power, all of a sudden you're looking at a pretty good situation where you don't even need guys in scoring position really to score if you start getting the ball out of the ballpark.
Sean, you and I talked last week about the difference between the home series and the away series, but this short series against Columbia is the only homestand if you look in either direction of the schedule so far and looking ahead to the future. Do you think they may be getting in a little bit of more of a rhythm playing on the road?
That's a really good question, Matt, and I'll be honest, I don't know if there's necessarily a definitive answer to that. I think it's just, in general, because you play every day, you're going to go through your lows and your highs. And I think that's what this team is doing, is that they're taking the good with the bad. They're trying to get better every day. Right now, you're seeing the fruits of those labors. And it's at a good point in time right now at 6-12. I mean, they're working towards being better. And I think if this month continues the way it is, you could see them, slowly rising in this division. But again, that's a pretty tough task. Like you mentioned, they're going to go on the road again. They're going to play 4 in Kannapolis after this. But then they really get to settle in here. We have an 8-game homestand later on in the month, and they're going to have another 8-gamer, I believe, in August. So I don't know if necessarily you get settled on the road, as we talked about last week, Matt, but they're doing a pretty good job right now.
There have obviously been moves throughout the course of this season. It happens all the time in minor league baseball, and it especially happens right around that All-Star break as some guys move up and new players move in. How are you seeing some of those new players progressing here as the second half of the season is going on?
One of the guys that recently came on was Gage Canning, who is a 5th-rounder that they picked up out of Arizona State University. And, he kind of struggled a little bit out of the gate. He was batting under 100 in his first couple games. But here recently, he had a multi-hit game before the road trip ended in that 14-hit effort. So I think that you hit the nail on the head there, Matt, that you get guys that come up, and you almost expect a slow start because it's a different level of competition that they're going to see here. So, especially with some of the pitchers that come up, you're not sure what they're going to how things are going to go. So, we had Malvin Pena come up from the Auburn Double Days, and he made a start. He pitched very, very well through 5 innings the other night. So, with some of these guys, you're seeing the comfort, different levels of comfort, I guess you could say. For instance, Canning, like I mentioned, he was drafted this year. Pena's been in the organization a few years, so I think that plays a part in it too, because for Pena, he walks into the clubhouse and he knows guys from spring training. He knows guys from being on the Double Days earlier this year. Whereas Canning, guys like Brandon Bogetto and some of the other faces, Tomas Alastre and things like that, those are guys he hasn't met before and he hasn't seen before. So there's certainly probably a level of adjustment there, but they're all baseball players. I mean, they're used to it at this point.
3-game series against Columbia starting tonight. What should fans be looking forward to at the ballpark over the next 3 days?
Aside from it being a Mets affiliate, which obviously being in Hagerstown, you get the best of both worlds. It's essentially like you're watching the future of the NL East. Tonight, we have our Bark in the Park night, as per usual. We're also doing Antietam Broadband night tonight. So fans that show up to the ballpark, if you bring your Antietam Broadband bill, you can actually receive 4 free tickets at the gate. So that'll be a fun night tonight. Then tomorrow, it's Thirsty Thursday out at the ballpark. So that's a 7:05 start. All these are 7:05 starts we have. And then we actually wrap up the series on Friday the 13th. But the cool thing is it's actually going to be Zombie Night out at the ballpark. So there's going to be a couple gentlemen that show up that were on the show The Walking Dead. There's going to be some makeup artists that are going to be able to kind of zombify, I guess if that's a word, some of the fans that come into the ballpark. Then after the game's over, we're actually going to do a zombie crawl around the bases. We're starting to ramp up in the summer, and there's some really great things coming up here, and I think that Zombie Night's going to be pretty unique.
Well, Sean, we appreciate the time and look forward to catching up sometime next week.
Sounds great, guys. Thanks a lot.
Sean Mernon, the play-by-play voice of the Hagerstown Suns. Matt, stop looking at me like that. Matt's just jealous because Sean likes me a little bit better than he likes him.
I don't know. I thought we had a good working relationship.
All right, we got to get into our bottom of the hour break, which will include an NBC Sports update, so don't go away. Weather also in this break. You're listening to Miller Time on Talk Radio WRNR Martinsburg.
CBS News Update. President Trump broke bread with fellow NATO leaders in Brussels shortly after publicly dressing them down over member countries' defense spending. CBS's Major Garrett says he also accused Germany of being a captive of Russia because of its energy purchases.
What is different here is the stridency of the president's rhetoric and matching that with his very harsh language about what he perceives to be Germany slow walking its commitment to spend 2% of its gross domestic product on defense.
Illinois Democratic Senator Dick Durbin.
He embraces Putin, calls him a fine man. It must be impossible for our allies to figure out exactly what the United States is saying.
Louisiana GOP Senator John Kennedy thinks it's okay to publicly shame NATO allies.
We're paying 3 times what Germany's paying. We're paying twice what France is paying. And I think what the president is doing is right.
CBS News Update, I'm Pam Coulter.
Now, with your local forecast, weatherman Bob Kukin.
Very pleasant and comfortable evening conditions stretching across Shepherdstown, Martinsburg, Berkeley Springs, all of the eastern panhandle, seeing temperatures dropping through the 70s. Our nighttime low 61 with a partly cloudy sky. For tomorrow, sunny, bright, picture perfect with a high of 84 during the afternoon. And again, pretty comfortable humidity-wise. Friday, sunny with a high of 86. I'm Bob Kukin, Talk Radio WRNR.
The Wellness Center at Berkeley Medical Center introduces a healthy way of life. It's not just another diet, but a weight management program developed by the Wellness Center that includes metabolic testing, a simple 10-minute breathing test that determines how many calories your body actually needs, followed by working one-on-one with a health coach to develop a personalized mix of exercise and nutrition to tip the scales in your favor towards successful weight loss. A lifetime of good health awaits at the Wellness Center. For more info, call 304-264-1232.
Since 1877, Farmers and Mechanics insurance companies have proudly supported our local community. Farmers and Mechanics has the insurance products to meet your needs, including home, auto, farm, dwelling fire, business owners, and umbrella coverage. Please contact your local independent agency for a review of your insurance needs and ask for a policy from the company that knows you best. Farmers and Mechanics insurance companies, just off Edwin Miller Boulevard on Administrative Drive in Martinsburg. FMIWV.com.
Your NBC Sports Radio update starts now.
Down goes England as Croatia wins 2-1 in extra time and advances to the World Cup final day. Will square off against France on Sunday. Roger Federer also falls earlier today to Kevin Anderson. 5-set match over 4 hours. Anderson wins the final 3 sets. Novak Djokovic wins easily in 4. Rafa Nadal wins in 5 sets over Juan Martín del Potro. John Isner over Milos Raonic in 4 sets. The Twins have put Addison Reed on the 10-day DL with right triceps tendonitis. And then the Twins won today over the Royals 8-5. Brian Dozier 3 for 5 with the stick, 3 RBIs, and his 15th homer of the season. For the rest of the scores and the stories, head to NBCSportsRadio.com. I'm Keith Irizarry, and this is NBC Sports Radio.
You've been injured, you're missing work, the medical bill collectors keep calling, and the other person's insurance company wants a lot of confusing paperwork signed and returned. At Ferretti Law Office, we handle these situations to protect your rights and get you the compensation you deserve. We explain how the insurance coverages work for your benefit and what a lawyer like me can do to make a difference. Call Ferretti Law Office at 264-8505 to schedule an appointment to discuss your situation for free. At Ferretti Law Office, we're here to help.
Let's see. Load the clothes in the washing machine. Add detergent. Turn on the washer. Wait, where's all this water coming from? Oh, no!
Disasters happen. Fire, water, and natural disasters. Tell your insurance provider you prefer Blue Ridge Property Restore. Blue Ridge Property Restore, getting you back from disaster faster.
She's gonna kill me.
And we welcome you back into Miller Time on this Wednesday evening, along with Matt Crawford. I'm Matt Miller. If you missed it earlier, as heard right here, the Pittsburgh Pirates blanked our Washington Nationals 2-0 in a day game at PNC Park. The Pirates take 2 out of 3 in the series, and that means the Nationals are 6 back of Philadelphia in the NL East. As the Phillies and Mets get ready to play tonight, the Phillies beat the Mets yesterday 7-3. Atlanta lost to Toronto yesterday 6-2. So Atlanta is 1 back right now, depending on what happens going into tonight.
Well, I think that's also just as shocking as how bad the Nationals are. Who would have thought the Phillies and Braves would be battling for the first in the East? And not just because everybody else is I mean, they're legitimate contenders right now in the National League as a whole. I think that's almost as shocking as the National struggles.
Yeah, both teams, I'm sure, will be looking to add a piece here or there that can help to propel them deeper into the postseason hunt and then ultimately into the postseason.
Well, that's the thing about the Nationals is that they need to get a starting pitcher. Something awful before the trade deadline. And they have teams that are above them that are going to be that are closer to getting into the playoffs if the season were to end right now, that are probably going to be willing to pay a little bit more for that one piece. So the Nationals, I don't think, are going to get the cream of the crop when it comes to free agent starting pitching signing, because who are they going to give up?
Right. Unless it's prospects.
And prospects aren't proven, which means you're not going to get a huge ace out of the deal. So I'm not sure free agency is going to treat the Nats very well. Or not free agency, but the trade deadline.
Let's move to our newest segment, a revamping of our old segment. No longer yesterday's date in sports history, but tomorrow's date, as we want to give you something to talk about around the coffee pot or the water cooler or wherever you chat with those when you are at work. So instead of looking backwards, we look to tomorrow, which will be the 12th of July, and we take you back to 1901 when Cy Young wins his 300th game.
He was pretty good. They made an award after him, right?
They did. And I noticed the picture that's a part of the website that we use for this feature. There is a reason why they named an award after him and not a haircut. I would never imagine going into the barbershop and going, yeah, give me the Cy Young, looking at this picture. Although back in the day, I'm sure it was probably like primo.
The part down the middle and then however many gobs of gel you had to put on that hair that looks like silicone.
Plastered. It was not moving. He could put his hat on, take his hat off, and I don't think it would have changed at all. All right, tomorrow's date in sports history takes us to 1921. Babe Ruth sets the record of 137 career home runs.
He would go on to later shatter that record.
I was going to say that's been broken. Yeah. How about 1928, the first televised tennis match? From what we understand, that was also the prototype of the Pong video game that came out many, many decades later. Just back and forth. Doink, doink, doink. All right, let's go to 1949, the 16th All-Star Game. The AL wins in Brooklyn, New York at Ebbets Field. A high-scoring affair. How about 11-7, the final? A no-hitter with a little more run production, Matt. 1951, the New York Yankees. Allie Reynolds no-hits the Cleveland Indians. The final 8-0.
That was during the Yankees, one of the several Yankees runs where they had a phenomenal offense. So that makes sense. I'm telling you, you look at the majority of no-hitters and their low-scoring affairs.
Right. I understand. I hear what you're saying. Let's go to tomorrow's date in 1970, the 99th British Open. It goes to Jack Nicklaus. Shoots a .283 at St. Andrews.
The Golden Bear.
For a while, we thought Tiger was going to catch him when it came to majors.
He will. Don't worry. There's still time.
And then Tiger had that incident. Golf club, car crashes, broken windows, wandering around aimlessly, angry wives. And ever since then, and then a hurt back. It's been downhill from there. All right, let's keep moving. Another no-hitter. 1990, the Chicago White Sox, Melito Perez no-hits the Yankees 8-0. There's another high-scoring affair, if you will, in a no-hitter. Oh, by the way, it was a rain-shortened 6-inning game at Yankee Stadium.
Oh, that doesn't count.
It does too. The game counts.
That doesn't count.
It counts.
How many no-hitters and perfect games people take into the 6th inning?
But I'm telling you, when
that should not count. That should not go down on the list.
Rain delayed
of no-hitters.
Rain delayed.
So you think that should count?
It does. It did count. We just read that.
I know,
it's a no-hitter.
But you think it should?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing he could do about it. It wasn't like, he went out there planning on it or anything. He did what he could do in that amount of time. The game gets shortened as a result of rain. I'm sure there's an asterisk beside of it in the record book somewhere, just like there might be an asterisk beside of one that, went 10 innings instead of 9.
I don't think that's true. Well, 10 innings is different because you've at least gotten through a complete game, and then you have extra. This didn't even get through a complete game. I don't buy it. No, not to me. That is not a no-hitter.
I just read it. It's been recorded as a no-hitter.
They can record it all they want. All they want doesn't mean I'm going to give into it and buy it.
Let's take a few minutes to backtrack to a story that we talked about yesterday with the WVSS-AC holding a committee meeting for the first time on Monday. The committee established by the WVSS-AC was to look at competitive balance in high school sports. Initially kind of dealing with private schools versus public schools, but in articles that we read also was looking at proposals that could impact teams that were having a lot of success. Looking at some other states, including, I believe, California was one of them. I thought I read where Indiana was one of them, where they will take teams that are progressively doing well and move them up a classification, whether the size of the school has changed or merits that or not. And it seemed to be that, that was at least something that this committee would be looking at. Now, Monday was just the laying out of some groundwork from the articles that we read. They'll meet again in September and I guess see where they've come at that point. So the question is, how do you deal with that? And especially my question yesterday late as we were wrapping up our conversation is, what do you do in AAA? I mean, you're penalizing AA and single A teams who are being successful, because if those teams are winning and you determine, well, they've won 5 years in a row or 6 years or whatever, 4 out of 5 years, we need to move them up. That's one thing. But what do you do in AAA when there's no place to move them?
Well, and that's my thing is I don't understand why you punish good teams. Okay, they're successful in where they are, maybe because they just happen to have that good of a talent base within the district they're in, or maybe it's because they're just good for the size school they have. I don't understand why bringing a team that's a very good 1A team and forcing them to play in 2A or 3A just because they're successful at the level they're at. You don't move Alabama up to the NFL because they're successful. How many national championships they won?
Maybe they should.
Yeah, but that's the thing is it's different.
The NFL, are they looking to expand?
I don't think so. I haven't heard anything.
Well, and that was someone posted. There's a webpage that you can go to kind of get fan reaction from around the mountain state of West Virginia. It's called WVTailgateCentral.com. And someone had posted about this meeting and some of the thoughts or ideas and proposals. And someone did chime in with that very thought, except they used Martinsburg and Shepherd as an example. And they said, okay, what are you going to do in Class AAA? Are you going to take a Martinsburg that's won 6 of the last 8 AAA state football championships and 2 in a row and move them to the MEC to replace Shepherd? And that was a mocking statement, but it certainly brings the point. How do you deal with that competitive balance in AAA? Well, we understand we do have a caller on the line. Let's go to the telephones, 304-263-6540, 304-263-6540, or 304-263-6586 are our call-in numbers if you would like to be a part of the conversation. Who are we talking to?
Hey, Matt, it's Tommy.
Hey, Tommy, how's it going?
I'm fine. I've got a idea that I found around on that site that you talked about.
All right.
And I've been turned down because this would help a lot of scheduling. Of course, you know this as much as I do. Walker will play anybody, anytime, any place, anywhere. This is what I think you should do. You take your powerhouse schools in the state, like a Martinsburg, a Capital, a Morgantown, even though they ain't been so, but a South Charleston, a Huntington, Cabell Midland, in South or Spring Valley, and it's Musselman, and these, you move them up to a 4A. You put them all in, then you take your Bridgeports, your Fairmonts, your Bluefields, you take them from AA, you move them to AAA. But when you move these other teams up to a 4A, this is where it helps with the scheduling. You don't have to travel like Martinsburg this year all the way up to almost Philadelphia to play because the team backs out. You tell them, you move them up, you tell them, you play each other. Then if you got space, if there's enough schedule space, then you can go out of state. Like we could bring in Eastern DC or in all.
Tommy, I'm going to stop you just for a second because the thought in my mind when you talk about that travel would be Martinsburg's longest trip this year, and really the only one outside of either Berkeley or Jefferson County, is going up near Philadelphia, which will be a 3 to 3.5 hour drive from what I understand. If you put together a 4A with all of those top programs and then play each other, now you're talking trips to Huntington and Charleston and Wheeling, and all of those will be 3.5 plus.
Yeah, I understand that, but it would help with the scheduling. You don't have to go way out of state. Then you wouldn't have to worry about, what people in the Charleston area and everything say. Well, Martinsburg don't play nobody. They play all these small schools out. Well, then come play us. That's like Spring Valley. Walker tried to play them, and they never returned his call.
Yeah, I understand there was an effort to try to get the two programs together after last year's state championship in this upcoming season, and it didn't quite work out. Matt?
Well, here's my thought about that. And it's not a bad thought. Again, I'm from Maryland where there was a 4A program. And it was not necessarily as tightly organized when it comes to the amount of kids at each school. But you look at the making the best teams move up out of 3A into 4A and moving everybody up. What happens when those teams fall in hard times for the amount of time that they were successful in the state? Are you just going to move teams up and back down depending on who's hot at the current moment? Or is there going to be some sort of criteria that you'd have to have if you were going to move teams up and down throughout the classifications?
I mean, most of the time, these teams as they stay, Capital's always been Capital, pretty much. Martinsburg's been dominant. Bridgeport's been Bridgeport lately. A lot of these kids, they pretty much the same teams in the Super Six, pretty much. If it's not Martinsburg, it's Capital.
Which again,
same way in AA. It's always Fairmont. Well, Mingo Central's come around lately. In Bluefield, Bridgeport, Fairmont.
I'm not sure exactly what they're going to do. And frankly, I'm not sure they're going to do anything when it comes to this aspect of competitive balance. Again, I read where, right now a team could play up a classification. You can't play down, but you could play up a classification. But currently it's written that if you do that, you got to do it in every sport. They're looking at a possibility of having teams willingly play that tougher competition in an individual sport. So in other words, Bridgeport may look and say, we've been real strong in AA football. Let's go at it in AAA and see if we can compete with the big boys. They could do that in football, but it wouldn't affect basketball or girls softball.
I don't see how Bridgeport's not a AAA school personally. I used to live up in that area. I lived in Clarksburg. There's a lot of people up in that area.
Yeah, and it's based on, they say, the size of the school itself, and all of those classifications are listed out on the WVSS-AC website. It's an interesting subject, but I'm just not sure exactly what they're going to do. I know there's been some talk as part of what this competitive balance committee will look at is transfer rules as well, as far as athletes who go from one school to another, whether that be those smaller private schools, into public or public into those privates, but also the public school to public school type of transfer to see what they can do to keep the competitive balance there. We're a small state. I mean, you got 28 teams right now, 29 teams maybe in Class AAA. 16 are going to make the playoffs. You're going to end up having the same teams there most of the time.
I mean, AAA is easy to make pretty much. I mean, last year you had what? If I remember correctly, off the top of my head, there was 2 to 3 teams that finished 4 and 6.
Yeah, there were a couple. Yep. So you're going to have the same teams there no matter what.
All you got to do is have a competitive schedule.
That's it.
You'll make it.
Tommy, thank you for the call. We appreciate it. We've got to get in a break. We've got more Miller Time coming up after this.
Four new car dealerships and 4 used car dealerships in 3 states. Parsons is the largest used car and fastest growing new car dealer in the tri-state area. Take Parsons Ford with huge savings on hundreds of new Fords, financing from 0%. Parsons' goal of financing for all. And Parsons' famous above market trade-in allowances that help make Parsons #1 for used cars too. See why so many won't buy anywhere but Parsons Ford in Martinsburg. We became #1 by making you #1 first. Parsons.
In the market for a flooring upgrade, Trips Floor Sanding and Berkeley Fashion Flooring does it all. From hardwood floor restoration to new floor installation, including hardwood, tile, vinyl, laminate, carpet, and the hottest trend in flooring, luxury vinyl tile and luxury vinyl plank. Family owned and operated with over 25 years experience, you can expect excellent customer service. Estimates are free. Call 304-229-7009 or online at tripsfloorsanding.com.
WVU Medicine welcomes Dr. Sarika Bagri to the staff at WVU Medicine Primary Care Inwood. Dr. Bagri is board certified in internal medicine and is now accepting new patients at Primary Care Inwood, conveniently located at 5047 Jaredstown Road, Suite 2B in the Inwood Medical Building. For more information or to schedule an appointment with Dr. Bagri, call WVU Medicine Primary Care Inwood at 304-229-6343. 304-229-6343.
L.A. Roberts is Berkeley County's oldest jeweler, where every season is new and exciting. In fact, new is old school to us, and though it's nothing new, our old traditions like exceptional service, quality, and value maintain L.A. Roberts Jewelers as the old master among so many new kids on the block. Whether you are a newcomer or part of the old guard, entrust all your fine jewelry needs to L.A. Roberts, Old World Jewelers for a new age, in historic downtown Martinsburg.
With 4 new car dealerships and 4 used car dealerships in 3 states, Parsons is the largest used car and fastest growing new car dealer in the tri-state area. Take Parsons Ford with huge savings on hundreds of new Fords, financing from 0%. Parsons' goal of financing for all. And Parsons' famous above market trade-in allowances that help make Parsons #1 for used cars too. See why so many won't buy anywhere but Parsons Ford in Martinsburg. We became #1 by making you #1 first. Parsons.
Just directing the band a little bit as we welcome you back into Miller Time. Along with Matt Crawford, I'm Matt Miller. Let's talk a little WVU football. It's right around the corner.
What is it, September 1st?
September 1st.
Charlotte to play the Vols.
Which means they'll be practicing beginning pretty early in August. And that's just a couple of weeks away. We understand that the conversation in Morgantown around the offense and coordinator Jake Spavital is that they may be looking to use the tight end a little bit more. In the offense under Dana Holgerson and other offensive coordinators that have been there with Holgerson, they tend to go a lot more wide open, and you don't see the tight end a whole lot. But this year they're saying the tight end will be worked into the offense a little bit more. Let's give you an example. Trayvon Wesco, the former Musselman High School standout, now a redshirt senior after spending a couple of years at Lackawanna College, then going on to WVU. And in his first year of 2016, he had 170 offensive plays that he played throughout the entire season. In 2017, that dipped down to just 134 offensive plays. And through those 2 seasons, he's been targeted, well, I don't know how many times. It didn't list that in the statistics, but it did list actual catches. 2016, 1 catch, 6 yards, and a touchdown. 2017, 1 catch for 1 yard, and also had a catch on a 2-point conversion in the bowl game. So it gives you an idea. They haven't used the tight end much in their offense.
Well, but you look at the quarterbacks they've had, and they've had a standout wide receiver pretty much the entire Holgorsen regime, right? I mean, they've had a guy that's been considered one of the top wide receivers in college and going pretty high in the NFL draft. So I love the tight end. I think the tight end is very underutilized at all levels of football. But, I mean, I'm not using it as an excuse, but they have had a all-pro wide receiver the entire time Holgorsen's been there, including right now with David Sills.
Right. Yeah, I mean, he's considered to be one of the top wide receivers in the nation, and Will Grier is being looked at as a potential Heisman candidate before the season gets underway.
He's got a website and everything.
So the passing game's going to be good. Well, reporters in Morgantown catching up with Trayvon Wesco, talking with him about the tight end in this offense.
Being here for a long period of time, you get better as time goes on.
You develop the trust kind of with Will?
Yeah, I trust Will. He trusts me. So, we're building as time goes on. Everybody's building as time goes on, which the summer is a good time to do it.
From your perspective, what does the tight end add to this offense that maybe it didn't have last year?
Well, hopefully it offers like mismatches and things like that, and better for it to come in since we got a lot of guys now, things like that.
Does competition in a sense raise kind of what you want to do? I mean, there's obviously more guys in the room now.
I mean, yeah, it's always good to have competition. I mean, I think it brings the best out of you.
So there you hear from Trayvon Wesco, former Musselman standout. I agree with him. It brings that element of surprise. If you spread teams out and then chuck a pass over the middle to a guy that's 6'4", 270, by the way, that's Trayvon Wesco, and get him some open space, who's bringing him down in the secondary?
A linebacker who's floating over the middle.
But I still think you pick up some good yardage and have a chance to break some big plays, because if you can get the right alignments and spread teams out, you're going to be able to get him those open opportunities.
Yeah, I agree completely. And again, you look at the WVU offense, they're going to want to air it out. They have one of the top offenses going into this year, or at least the predicted one of the top offenses this year. So they're going to have teams ready for them to go long, and you can incorporate 1 or 2 tight ends at some point. It's going to be a pretty productive offense if they can have a big guy go over the middle or run out patterns or do anything that there could possibly be a threat of somebody going short. And you do a couple weeks of that, you're going to find David Sills a little more open deep.
Yeah, it creates some neat opportunities. The accordion, if you will. You're going to spread them out and then hit them short, and then that sucks them back in. Also, you can go back deep again, and you've got that defense playing accordion, in and out, in and out. What do we do? Where do we go? You keep them off balance. Hopefully you score some points, because we saw last year the Mountaineers needed to score a lot of points.
Well, yeah, they're in the Big 12. They're going to need to score as many points as possible. And they did a lot last year. But, again, the big thing with the Mountaineers this year is going to be the defense.
Yep.
We can talk all day long about what the offense is going to do. We know what the offense is going to do. We saw it last year. But I think the big question is still going to be whether Tony Gibson's defense can step up to the challenge. And last year they did not.
No.
So at certain points they did, but I think if overall you look at the defense last year, they did not step up to the challenge, and that's what's going to have to change this year for them to make a deep run into the postseason and get a good bowl game.
That's it. You might give up some points, but you can't give up what they gave up last year, because as good as the offense is, you're not always going to score 30 and 40 points a game. That's going to do it for today's Miller Time. Stay tuned for NBC Sports Radio on Talk Radio, WRNR Martinsburg.
Now your local news from Talk Radio WRNR. Police say she threatened to shoot them and resisted arrest when they showed up at her house, and as a result, she could spend 4 years in jail and have to pay more than $20